Hey everyone, in today's video, we're diving into an incredible tale of resilience and spiritual awakening. The near-death experience of Liana Brightwell is bound to tug at your heartstrings and encourage you to ponder life's true meaning and what follows after we depart this world. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. Drop your city in the comments. It's always fascinating to learn about our viewers' locations. And if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, now's the perfect time. Hit it and ring the bell so you won't miss any of the amazing stories we share here. As Sufi once said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So brace yourselves for a journey filled with illumination and change. Let me introduce myself. I'm Liana Brightwell. At 35, I've been living in Mystic Springs, Nevada, alongside my husband, Adrian, and our son, Milo. Before life took an unexpected turn, I was just an ordinary person with a career as an interior designer. I thrived on my job and was quite content with where life was headed. Adrian, a lawyer, and I were deeply committed to our careers, finding solace in our partnership. Mystic Springs has always held a special allure for me. The mesmerizing rock formations and the unique energy of the place resonate with me on a profound level. Together with Adrian, we crafted a life in this enchanting location. Our relationship flourished on a foundation of trust and friendship. Initially, we were certain that we didn't want to expand our family. Just being together felt complete enough. But oh, how life loves to surprise us. To our astonishment, I found out I was pregnant at 33. We weren't the typical couple dreaming of a large family, but as the months rolled by, it became clear that this little one would add an entirely new dimension to our lives. And then came Milo, our miracle. His birth flipped my world upside down. Suddenly, everything revolved around him. The love that enveloped me was beyond anything I had ever known, yet it was laced with an unfamiliar fear. Strange dreams began haunting my nights, nightmares really. One vividly depicted a horrific car crash. It felt so real that I woke up in a panic, drenched in sweat. I tried to brush these unsettling dreams aside, but they lingered, especially every time I entered the car. It was like an internal alarm was going off, warning me about something. But like most of us, I pushed through, pretending everything was normal. I could never have imagined that those ominous visions could signal something more serious. I certainly didn't foresee how swiftly my life would be turned upside down. Sure, let's dive into this incredible experience. What I want to share today is how a seemingly ordinary car ride transformed my perspective on life, death, and everything in between. This story still brings up emotions for me. I often find myself pausing to breathe deeply as the memories surface. It feels crucial to talk about it. After all, who knows? Maybe what I went through can shine a different light for someone else. If you're up for it, let me take you back to where it all began. So it was a Tuesday morning, just like any typical day. I had dropped Milo off at my mom's place while I tackled some work errands. I recall feeling pressed for time when I finally went to pick him up. Let's just say the traffic was less than cooperative. Mystic Springs usually stays pretty calm, but on that day, it felt like every car in town had decided to hit the road simultaneously. There I was, stuck in my minivan, waiting impatiently for the light to change. My thoughts were scattered, mulling over the endless list of tasks ahead. Ever been on autopilot? That's where my head was at. The radio played softly in the background as my fingers drummed rhythmically on the steering wheel, a bit annoyed by the delay. Then everything shifted in an instant. One moment I was lost in thought, and the next, out of nowhere, I heard this dreadful roar. I turned just in time to see a massive truck barreling towards me, completely out of control. The screeching of tires filled the air before I even realized what was happening. I didn't have a chance to scream. The collision hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt my body jolt forward and then snap back, tossed around like a rag doll. The noise was overwhelmingly chaotic. Metal twisting, glass shattering. It was as if a bomb had gone off. For a moment, I thought I was slipping into yet another nightmare, but the immediate pain that followed jolted me into reality. Everything went dark, but to be honest, I have no idea how long I was out. When I finally came to, the first thing that struck me was the silence. All the chaos had vanished, replaced by an eerie stillness. I opened my eyes, or at least I thought I did, but found myself enveloped in darkness. It was odd. It wasn't the terrifying kind, more like a tranquil void. I felt no pain, no fear. In fact, I didn't feel anything physical at all. That's when it hit me. I was floating. Gone were the constricting seatbelt and the weight of my body pressing against the seat. I felt as light as air. I attempted to move and realized I could do so effortlessly. I wasn't walking or swimming. I was simply gliding through my thoughts. As the shadows began to lift, it felt like someone was slowly turning up the brightness on a lamp. In that moment, clarity emerged, and I noticed my own body below, still pinned within the wreckage of the car. Paramedics rushed around frantically, their muffled voices reaching my ears. I heard them shouting, "She's not breathing. We need to get her out of here now." It was almost like watching an odd film, surreal and far off. I wanted to yell to them, to assure them that I was all right, that I was up above, yet my voice betrayed me. No sound came forth. Then, out of nowhere, I felt a pull, but not the kind tied to the physical world. It felt more like a gentle beckoning. Looking up, I was drawn to a light unlike anything I had ever encountered. It sparkled, yet it didn't hurt my eyes. It felt warm and welcoming. Almost instinctively, I started drifting towards it. As I got closer, an overwhelming sense of peace enveloped me. All my worries and troubles just melted away. Fear, pain, anxiety, none of it mattered anymore. I was swaddled in tranquility. The light around me intensified, but oddly, it didn't overwhelm me. It felt as if I was submerging into something wondrous. Suddenly, I found myself transported, not to a place as we understand it, but more like a different realm entirely. Everything shimmered softly, with hues more vibrant than anything I had ever laid eyes on back home. A soothing melody floated through the air, a harmonious sound that felt omnipresent yet elusive. In that moment of awareness, I realized my physical form had vanished. I looked at my hands, now glowing with the same luminescence as my surroundings. Movement felt effortless. I glided through that enchanting space, captivated by the beauty around me. And then I sensed a presence. Turning, I spotted a figure who could only be described as an angel. It wasn't the typical image of angels with wings and halos. Instead, he radiated light, brimming with love. His energy was so potent it was almost tangible. Though no words were exchanged, I understood him without difficulty. It was as if he communicated directly from essence to essence. "Welcome, Liana," was the first sentiment that washed over me. "Don't be afraid, you are safe here." A wave of curiosity hit me. I had so many questions. Where was I? What had just occurred? Everything felt overwhelming, but before I could voice my thoughts, the angel sensed my confusion. "You're in a transitional phase," they explained. "Your body has gone through immense trauma, but your true essence is right here with us." The idea of having a choice caught me off guard. What kind of choice? As I pondered this, images began flashing before my eyes. My life unfolded like a fast-forwarded film, key moments, decisions, and the individuals I had touched along the way. There were even small acts of kindness I had forgotten, moments where I had extended warmth without a second thought. Then I spotted Milo, my sweet Milo, beaming at me. Next to my hospital bed, Adrian appeared, worry etched on his face. I caught a glimpse of my mother, deep in prayer. The emotional weight of these memories washed over me. The angel continued, "You have the option to stay here with us, or you can go back. Both choices hold significance, and it's up to you." I took a moment to absorb everything. The serenity enveloping me was indescribable. Part of me longed to remain, to bask in that radiant light forever. But then my thoughts shifted to Milo and how deeply he relied on me. I realized there was still so much I wished to achieve, and many more people I yearned to help. After a pause, I finally uttered, "I want to go back." A smile, or at least that's how it felt, played on the angel's face. "A courageous choice, Liana. But first, there's something I need to show you, something that will reshape your understanding of life and death." With the angel guiding me, we embarked on a transformative journey. As we moved, the scenery shifted around us, leading to an awe-inspiring structure that resembled a heavenly temple. It sparkled like crystal, radiating its own luminous glow, with towers stretching so high they almost blended into the sky. "This is the Temple of Knowledge," the angel revealed. "Here, souls gather to learn and grasp universal truths." As we stepped inside, I was captivated by the vibrant energy pulsating through the walls. Strange symbols and writings adorned the space, yet I could understand them intuitively, as if the knowledge flowed directly into my mind. As we wandered through the temple, I noticed other souls. Some were deep in meditation, while others conversed animatedly in groups. A serene aura surrounded everyone, radiating a wisdom I had never encountered before. Liana, with her angelic presence, drew my gaze. "Someone is here to see you," she said. My heart, or whatever semblance of it existed in that strange place, nearly ceased to beat as I glanced over my shoulder. There stood Eldon, my grandfather. He had passed away when I was young, but I would recognize that familiar face anywhere. His smile enveloped me in warmth, a reflection of the affection I had always cherished. "Grandpa!" I cried, almost gliding towards him. We embraced, and although it wasn't a physical hug, it felt as if our spirits intertwined for that brief moment. "My dear Liana," he spoke, and his voice was exactly as I remembered. "You've grown so much. I'm so proud of you." We chatted, and somehow it felt like both a fleeting instant and an eternity. He shared stories of his existence beyond this life, the lessons he had learned, and how he continued to watch over me and our family. Then I hesitated. "Grandpa, can I stay here with you?" His gentle smile reassured me. "You can always stay, sweetie, but think about it. There are people down there who still need you. Your journey isn't finished yet." I glanced around at the serene surroundings, a tempting refuge indeed. But thoughts of Milo, Adrian, and all the experiences I yearned to have tugged at my heart. "You're right," I admitted, realizing how much I still wished to accomplish. "There's still so much love for you to give and receive," Eldon said, gently perceiving my thoughts. "Always remember, no matter where life takes you, our bond remains unbroken." He embraced me once more, and I could feel his love and wisdom enveloping me. "Go now, my dear," he urged. "Live life fully, and when the time is right, we'll be here waiting for you." With a bittersweet feeling in my heart, tears of a sort welling in my eyes, I bid farewell to my grandfather. The angel then beckoned me to follow. "There's one last thing you need to experience before you return," he said. Curiosity piqued, I accompanied him out of the peaceful temple. The ambiance shifted dramatically as we distanced ourselves from the Temple of Knowledge. The bright, inviting light dimmed, replaced by a more somber atmosphere. It wasn't terrifying, but it carried an undeniable sadness. "What is this place?" I inquired, my heart racing. "This, Liana, is what many refer to as hell," the angel explained, his tone calm yet compassionate. I was taken aback. Hell? It wasn't at all what I expected. No flames blazing, no creatures lurking like the typical images of hell that often haunt people's minds. Instead, I found myself in a colorless, gloomy realm. The angel accompanying me noticed my puzzled expression and began to clarify. "What many think of as hell is far from the truth. It's not a space of forever punishment or endless agony. It's a temporary realm where souls linger, those who haven't yet awakened to their authentic divine selves." As we strolled through this dim place, I spotted shadowy figures drifting about. They looked more bewildered than tormented. "Most of the souls here, about 99%, are simply spiritually asleep," the angel explained. "They haven't tapped into the divine potential that lies within. They get trapped in cycles of negative thoughts, fears, guilt, and beliefs they've created, which keep them bound here." This was such a change from every hellish tale I had ever heard. "But do they have a way out?" I couldn't help but ask. With a warm smile, the angel assured me, "Absolutely. This place serves a purpose. It's a chance for learning and growth. Once these souls connect with their true purpose and grasp the essence of who they are, they inevitably ascend to higher states of awareness." I couldn't shake the thought of all those people back on Earth, living under the constant dread of hell. If only they knew the truth. "But why do some souls end up here while others don't?" I inquired, curiosity piqued. The angel responded, "It's about consciousness. Some souls, upon leaving the physical realm, are already enlightened enough to see their true nature. Others require more time and experiences to reach that understanding. There's no judgment, just different journeys of growth." As we moved along, I noticed a few souls starting to awaken. It was as if a light flickered on inside them. "What's happening with them?" I asked, captivated. "They're awakening," the angel replied. "They are starting to recognize their true essence. Soon, they will be ready to advance on their spiritual paths." I paused, absorbing this profound and compassionate vision. It was wholly different from my previous ideas. The angel turned to me and said, "This is a crucial truth to carry with you. The universe is fundamentally loving and just. There is no eternal damnation, only endless chances for growth and development." I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude wash over me, as if a heavy burden of fear had been lifted away. Feeling a rush of gratitude, I realized that my entire perspective on life, death, and the universe had shifted dramatically. I was eager to share this newfound understanding with anyone who would listen. As I prepared to return to Earth, the angel, guiding me through the ethereal realm, paused when we neared a shimmering portal. "Liana," the angel said, "there's something crucial you need to grasp before you head back." I sensed the importance of his words. "Your transition back to the physical world will pose challenges. Your body has gone through significant trauma, and reconnecting your soul to it won't be straightforward." A knot formed in my stomach at the thought. "What can I expect?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Pain," the angel replied softly. "Not just physical pain, but emotional challenges as well. You've witnessed things that go beyond what most people can comprehend. Adjusting to your old reality is going to take time." Swallowing hard, I acknowledged the weight of his words. But even amidst my apprehension, there was a flicker of determination in me. "I'm ready," I stated firmly. The angel smiled gently. "You possess more strength than you realize, Liana. Carry with you the love and wisdom you've gained here. Never forget that you have a significant purpose to fulfill." As I absorbed that reassurance, I felt a powerful force tugging at me, pulling me through a tunnel of vibrant light and swirling sensations. It was exhilarating, yet disorienting. Just as quickly as it started, all went dark. Suddenly, I was jolted by a wave of intense pain, sharp and all-consuming, coursing through every part of me. I mustered the effort to open my eyes, which felt heavy as if they were weighed down. I could hear voices nearby. At first, they were muffled, but they gradually came into focus. I recognized one of them. "She's coming back! Call the doctor!" It was the beginning of my return, a journey I knew would be anything but easy. When I finally opened my eyes, the bright light in the hospital room hit me like a flash, and I blinked rapidly to adjust. The first thing I noticed was the concerned looks surrounding me. Doctors, nurses, and there, holding my hand, was Adrian. His voice trembled with emotion as he asked, "Can you hear me?" I attempted to respond, but my throat felt like sandpaper, so I settled for a slight nod. The next few days, or was it weeks, time felt like it had flown by in a haze, were filled with a chaotic whirlwind of tests, medications, and doctor visits. My body had endured so much from the accident: broken ribs, head trauma, and internal injuries. The doctor even called it a miracle that I had made it through. If only they understood, though, the physical recovery was a grueling journey, just as that angel had warned me about. But what hit me the hardest was grappling with the emotional and spiritual fallout of what I had gone through. How do you articulate an experience that transcends the ordinary? How can mere words capture the essence of something so otherworldly? Throughout this tumultuous time, Liana was my sanctuary. Even though he couldn't fully comprehend the weight of my experience, how could he? He stood by me, offering love and patience. And then there was Milo. Seeing my son again had to be one of the most profound moments of my life. The first time he stepped into that hospital room, tears welled in his little eyes, and he called out, "Mommy," rushing to embrace me. Fighting to hold back tears of both pain and happiness, I wrapped my arms around him with all the strength I could muster. His warmth and the innocent scent of a child filled my heart. In that moment, I knew without a doubt that returning had been the right choice. No matter how beautiful that other realm was, the love I felt for my son outshone it all. As the days passed and my strength began to return, I started to process everything I had experienced. While the memories of those days were vivid, they occasionally felt like they belonged to another life, a faraway dream. Sometimes I questioned whether it had all been real or just a fabrication of my trauma. Yet the feelings, those waves of unconditional love, the truths I discovered, reminded me that it was all authentic, perhaps more real than anything I'd ever faced before. The medical staff couldn't help but admire my recovery. "You have incredible willpower," they marveled. If only they knew where my true strength came from. There was one nurse, Rita, who seemed particularly curious about my journey. One day, she sat beside my bed when we were alone and asked in a hushed tone, "Liana, did you notice anything unusual?" Adrian asked without a hint of hesitation. I raised an eyebrow, taken aback by his boldness. "Why do you want to know?" I replied, curiosity piqued. Rita paused, seemingly processing her thoughts. "Well, you have this different kind of spark in your eyes. I've seen it before in patients who've had near-death experiences. They always return changed." My heart filled with gratitude at the opportunity to discuss my journey. "Yes, I've witnessed incredible things," I responded. "Death isn't something we should fear. It's merely a passage." Hearing this, Rita's eyes glistened with tears. "My mom passed away a few months ago," she admitted quietly. "I've been terrified that she's suffering." I gently took her hand, trying to infuse her with my belief. "Your mother is at peace, Rita. She's growing, learning, and her love for you is stronger than ever." As she wept softly, thanking me over and over, I realized that perhaps part of my newfound purpose was to provide solace and hope to those grappling with grief or fear concerning death. After what felt like an eternity in the hospital, I finally returned home. It was a mixed bag of emotions. Sure, I was thrilled to be back in my familiar surroundings with family, but I also found myself yearning for the spiritual connection I'd experienced during my ordeal. Adrian had taken it upon himself to prepare our home for my return, transforming it into a true sanctuary for healing. Milo had drawn heartwarming decorations that adorned the walls, filling the space with love that wrapped around me like a cozy blanket. That first night back in my own bed was a whirlwind of emotions. As I lay there staring at the ceiling I knew so well, the tears began to flow. I cried out of relief for being alive, for the longing for my time on the other side, and for the overwhelming love of my family. Deep down, I understood that things would never be the same again. Drifting off to sleep, I felt an undeniable certainty that my journey was just starting. The life I once knew had come to an end that fateful day, but a new existence filled with purpose and significance was just beginning to unfold. The months that followed my return were anything but simple. Physically, I was making progress every day. The pain lessened, bruises faded, and my mobility gradually returned. However, mentally, I was in a different realm. My mind felt like a storm, swirling with thoughts and anxieties. During the day, I tried to regain some sense of normalcy, helping out with Milo and tackling household tasks as much as my body would allow. The nights were the hardest. When everything around me was still, those memories clawed their way back to the surface. I often jolted awake, my heart racing, drenched in sweat, reliving the sensation of drifting above my own body. Other times, I found myself in vivid dreams about my grandfather's temple of knowledge and the souls I encountered in the afterlife. Waking from these dreams brought a blend of yearning and frustration, a painful reminder that I couldn't return to that world. Adrian, always observant, noticed that something was off. One particular night, he found me curled up on the couch, tears streaming down my cheeks at 3 a.m. He settled beside me, his voice gentle as he asked, "Liana, what's going on? Can you share?" In that moment, looking into the eyes of my longtime companion, I felt a gap had formed between us, one created by an experience that he couldn't fully grasp. "Adrian," my voice trembled. "I witnessed things while I was unconscious. They changed everything for me. Now I'm lost in this world, burdened by what I know." He gazed at me, a mix of worry and bewilderment crossing his face. "What things, Liana? Can you explain?" That was the moment I poured out my heart, sharing everything. The light, the angel, the temple, my grandfather, the startling truths I learned about hell. It all surged forth like a dam breaking. Adrian listened intently, his expressions shifting from shock to concern as I spoke. The silence that followed felt heavy. Finally, he murmured, "I don't know what to say. This is a lot to take in." My heart sank. How could I have expected him to grasp it all? An experience like mine felt incomprehensible to those who hadn't lived through it. But then Adrian did something unexpected. He took my hand in his and said, "I can't fully understand what you went through, but I see how real it was for you. Whatever you experienced must have significance, and I'm here for you. Let's figure this out together." Relief washed over me as I cried in his embrace. It wasn't complete understanding, but it was acceptance. It was a beginning. In the days that followed, I made a conscious effort to seek help. I found a therapist who specialized in near-death experiences, and through our sessions, I began to unpack what had happened to me and how to weave it into my daily life. I also turned to meditation, striving to recapture that profound sense of peace I felt on the other side. At first, it was challenging, but little by little, I tried to reconnect with that stillness. Frustration often clouded my thoughts. Restlessness became a constant companion until, with practice, I stumbled upon fleeting moments of tranquility, a hint of the spiritual connection I had discovered. Life had its tough days, though. Some mornings I would gaze around and feel utterly out of sync with everything. Bills, traffic, and petty annoyances seemed so trivial compared to what I now understood. It was during one of these challenging times that Milo, with his innocent curiosity, grounded me once more. I found myself in the kitchen, lost in a whirl of thoughts when he burst in, excited and clutching a drawing. "Mommy, look! I made you an angel!" As I took the paper from him, I was taken aback. There I was, depicted with oversized wings and an enormous grin. Hearts and stars surrounded me, vividly sketched by his imaginative hand. In that moment, everything clicked into place. Yes, my life had been transformed by an incredible experience, but I was still here, firmly rooted as a mother, a wife, and a friend. Milo's presence reminded me of the importance I held in this earthly life. As I wrapped my arms around him, feeling his small, warm frame, I whispered, "It's beautiful, my love." He planted a sweet kiss on the top of my head and said, "Thank you for reminding me I'm your angel here on earth." From that moment, I started striving for balance. The spiritual insight I gained would always be a part of me, but it couldn't assume the entirety of my existence. There was a life to embrace, people to cherish, and dreams to chase. I began to realize that perhaps the true challenge was living fully in this world while keeping the mysteries of the beyond in my heart. As the months rolled by, something profound shifted deep within me. It wasn't merely the lens through which I viewed the world that had altered. My perception of myself in it changed too. The once pressing desires for professional achievement, social standing, and material wealth felt, well, less urgent. I found my focus drawn to what I once deemed softer pursuits: compassion, connection, and personal growth. Every interaction became a chance to add a bit more light to the world around me. This new mindset spilled over into my work life as well. Instead of obsessing over climbing the corporate ladder or gaining the favor of high-profile clients, I aimed to foster environments that made others feel genuinely at ease, at peace. As I dove deeper into my creative work, I found myself weaving in elements of healing and harmony, drawing from the astonishing insights I had gained during my journey. Splitting my time in Mystic Springs, Nevada, with Liana Brightwell and Milo, I discovered an unexpected richness in our relationships. They weren't just family members anymore. They were fellow souls on their own paths of growth and evolution. My conversations with Adrian took on a new depth. We explored topics that had once felt out of reach, like spirituality, life, and even death. It was incredible to watch him, someone initially skeptical, start to embrace new ideas, inspired by the changes he saw in me. My interactions with Milo also shifted. I became more intentional in my guidance, teaching him about mindfulness and the virtues of kindness and empathy. To my surprise, he seemed to grasp these concepts effortlessly, almost as if he had known them all along. Internally, I navigated a transformation myself. The overwhelming feeling of being out of place slowly morphed into a sense of purpose. I started to realize that my return wasn't merely about living my life. It was about sharing the wisdom I had gathered. At first, I introduced these ideas gently, slipping them into conversations with friends and coworkers whenever the subject of death or spirituality surfaced. I wasn't trying to force my views on anyone. I simply offered a fresh perspective that often brought comfort. Over time, I grew more courageous. I joined support groups for those who had experienced near-death situations or had lost loved ones. These gatherings became a safe space for me to share my story, discussing the profound love I had encountered and the continuity of consciousness beyond physical existence. It was incredibly rewarding to witness the emotional release in others, as I explained that hell wasn't a realm of eternal torment, but rather a temporary learning phase. I'll never forget one particular moment after a meeting. An elderly woman approached me, her eyes glistening with tears, yet a serene smile graced her face. "Thank you," she said, clasping my hands tightly. "For years I feared my son, who died by suicide, was suffering in hell. Your words have liberated me from that fear." In that instant, a wave of gratitude washed over me, nearly causing me to stagger. This was the very reason I had come back, to bring a glimmer of light to the shadows and offer hope amidst despair. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Some people reacted with doubt or even anger to what I was sharing. A few friends distanced themselves, clearly uncomfortable with my new outlook and the shift in our dynamics. During my journey of self-discovery, I often found myself questioning whether I was strong enough to carry the weight of all my new responsibilities. But then I would recall the words of the angel, "You are tougher than you realize, Liana." Those thoughts gave me the push I needed to keep moving forward. As time went on, writing about my experiences became a way for me to sort through my thoughts. I didn't start this with plans to write a book or to become some kind of spiritual authority. It was more about leaving a piece of myself for Milo when he grew older. Writing turned into a form of meditation for me. It helped me process everything I had gone through and find the right words for the things that felt beyond description. I was often surprised to rediscover parts of my journey that I had forgotten or tucked away. One evening, while reflecting on the Temple of Knowledge, something clicked as I recalled the angel's message: the universe is deeply loving and just. In that moment, it struck me in a new light. Even with the challenges we face here on Earth, everything serves a greater purpose. Every single experience, whether joyful or painful, contributes to our growth. This realization washed over me like a wave of peace. It didn't necessarily make my challenges disappear, but it shifted my perspective entirely. I began to view obstacles not as some cruel twist of fate, but as chances to grow, to show love and compassion, first to myself and then to those around me. As I embraced this new outlook, I noticed changes in the people close to me too. Adrian, who at first struggled to grasp what I was going through, started taking an interest in spirituality. He began meditating by my side and even enrolled in a course on Eastern philosophy. Milo, despite his young age, seemed to soak in the lessons I shared. I watched him blossom into a genuinely compassionate child, always eager to help others. One day he came home from school filled with stories about comforting a friend whose grandfather had recently passed. I shared with him that his own granddad was in a beautiful place, continuing his journey. Theo's eyes sparkled with pride as he echoed my words back to me. Initially, my parents were worried and doubtful about my new perspective, but gradually they began to embrace it. My mother especially found solace in what I was saying, particularly when grieving the loss of her sister. The knowledge that her sister was in a peaceful place and moving ahead with her own journey offered her great comfort. It was a regular day at work when Liana Brightwell shared something with me that really opened my eyes. Tears glistened in her eyes as she spoke about how my new approach to interior design was making waves. Clients began to notice a tranquility in the spaces I crafted. One in particular even remarked that the room I put together for her radiated a healing energy. Little did she realize just how spot on that assessment was. Yet, the journey wasn't always blissful. There were certainly tough days when I felt burdened by the weight of everything I'd come to know. I sometimes found myself yearning for the deep peace and unconditional love I had felt on that other side, and those moments could be tough to bear. In those times, I'd often retreat into meditation, searching to reconnect with that transcendent experience. One day, during a particularly profound meditation, it hit me like a bolt of lightning. My purpose wasn't merely to share what I had already learned. It was also about continually seeking growth and understanding here on Earth. Instead of considering life as a mere passage back to that wonderful place, I began to see it as a rich opportunity for development and service. With that realization, I dove headfirst into learning more. I pored over books on near-death experiences, spirituality, and Eastern philosophies. I even attended workshops and retreats. Each new revelation seemed to harmonize perfectly with my previous experiences, expanding my view of the world. Then, Out of the blue, I received a surprising invitation to speak at a conference about consciousness and spirituality. My first instinct, to turn it down. After all, I wasn't an expert, just someone who had walked a unique path. But then I remembered the words from the angel, "You have an important purpose to fulfill." With Adrian's support and Milo's enthusiastic encouragement, saying, "Go on, Mom. Tell everyone about heaven," I decided to embrace the opportunity. I prepared thoroughly, organizing my thoughts and calming my nerves with meditation. On the day of the event, as I stepped onto the stage and gazed out at the audience, a wave of love and gratitude washed over me. There they were, hundreds of seekers, each on their own spiritual journey. Taking a deep breath, I began to share my story, bearing my soul. The response was nothing short of remarkable. People cried, they laughed, and many gave me a standing ovation. Afterward, countless attendees approached me, expressing how my words had ignited hope in their lives where fear and doubt had once lingered. That night, as I returned home, a profound sense of fulfillment enveloped me. I finally grasped that my true calling was to be a bridge between the two worlds, channeling the light and love that I had always longed to share. Liana Brightwell lay in bed one night, with Adrian peacefully asleep beside her. Gazing out at the enchanting sky of Mystic Springs, Nevada, she couldn't help but ponder the remarkable journey her life had taken since that fateful accident. So many changes had unfolded, a plethora of challenges faced, and countless lessons learned. Yet surprisingly, she felt as though everything was just beginning. The vast mysteries of the universe filled her thoughts. Here she was, a tiny part of this enormous cosmic puzzle, trying to spread a little light and love in her corner of the world. With that comforting sense of peace and purpose washing over her, she drifted off to sleep, feeling grateful for every moment in this extraordinary adventure called life. As time blended into years, Liana noticed that her story was branching out, impacting not only herself and her family, but the wider community as well. People had begun to resonate with the truths she shared, and her narrative started to ripple beyond Mystic Springs. Known for its spiritual allure, the town drew seekers of higher truths, and Liana inadvertently became a beacon for those wrestling with questions about the afterlife or the meaning of existence. She started receiving requests to speak at various venues, churches, holistic centers, and even schools. At first, she hesitated, nervous about being perceived as a guru or a spiritual expert. Liana felt like just an ordinary person, attempting to interpret her own extraordinary experience. But then she remembered the words of the angel that had guided her toward a purpose. Sharing her story wouldn't elevate her to a pedestal. Instead, it could offer hope and a fresh perspective to others in need. During one of her talks at a local church, she explored her belief that hell was merely a temporary state, a place for necessary learning rather than eternal punishment. Afterward, a man approached her, tears glistening in his eyes. He revealed the heart-wrenching pain he had been living with since his son's suicide years earlier. Consumed by guilt and fear of his son's eternal suffering, he told Liana, "Your words have set me free." He grasped her hands tightly, a deep breath escaping him. "For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe again. Thank you for giving me hope." Moments like this illuminated for Liana the profound transformative power that a mere shift in perspective could wield. Her story was not just a tale, it was a new lens through which so many could contemplate life and death. Motivated by this impact, she began organizing support groups for individuals with near-death experiences or those mourning the loss of loved ones. These gatherings provided a sanctuary, a comforting space where people could express their hopes, fears, and narratives with open hearts. With a heart full of appreciation and a sense of direction, I step inside my home, gearing up for yet another day on this incredible adventure called life. It's remarkable how, following a brush with death, everything has transformed. My life now feels so much fuller, more profound, and infinitely more significant than I ever thought possible.